Hey guys, I want to take a look at a game I played last night against a player that was 200 points higher rated than me. And the game was played as the final round of a 5-week tournament where we played one game a week on Monday nights. And I was at 2.5 points out of 4, and so was my opponent. So my opponent was having a kind of a rough tournament, but he usually plays pretty well. And I had played him once before in the past, and I got creamed. But it was pretty early on in my chess career. It was probably 3 years ago now, or yeah, I think it was over 3 years ago now that I played him the first time. Um, Basically, just hung a kind of basic tactic in the early middle game and resigned shortly after. In this game, I had prepared to play the Smith-Morra Gambit as black because that's what I was told that he played against c5, and then at the last second the pairings were changed around and I had to play white instead of black. So I was pretty unprepared and I had really no idea what he played versus e4, but it turns out he played the Sicilian as well, so I played my standard c3 stuff, and this opening is pretty normal. Here there are three, kind of obvious move candidates, and only bishop e2 that I know of is really useful. Uh, to show you as an example, uh, bishop e3 protecting d4 you can have quite a few problems caused by bishop takes f3, and your pawns are in some serious trouble here. Oops, that's actually not what I wanted. There, that's what I wanted. So I'll learn how to do that. So I chose, the other option is knight bd2, which blocks the protection of the d4 square, and black can capitalize that by just taking on d4, and now you have serious problems. And so what I did instead was I think the standard bishop e2. I'm not sure that there's anything better than that. I was not really prepared for my opponent to castle queenside quite so early. It seems like a problem to me to have this much kind of air around the king, and you've got a pretty wide open diagonal here. It just seems like there's a lot of air around his king. Furthermore, to me it seems like there's a lot of activity over here, and there's pieces over here, and I can play things like a3 and b4 and get rolling over here on the queen side much faster than anything going on over here. He does, however, have ideas like queen to h4, rook to d6, and over to h6, and so if I castle kingside, I have to be aware of these ideas. Alright, so I decided to kind of get rolling early and get a jump start on my attack on the king's position on the queen side here by playing c4, which forces his queen out of the way, and he did go ahead and make the aggressive move of queen h5, and I pushed to d5. So now I have a center here that looks pretty strong. The only real problem is that the pawn is pinned along the d file, making it susceptible to my opponent's move of e6. And truth be told, I calculated c4, d5, and then queen to several different places, and I thought that I was doing okay. And I didn't really consider this pin as strongly as I should have. And it caused a little problem, but I don't think it was too critical. I played knight c3 next, planning to put the knight on the d5 square in case of trades, and that seemed to be at least a reasonable compromise. He challenged that idea with knight f6, and I pinned the knight. However, there's a little removal of the guard tactic here. If we try bishop takes f3, then there's a line here that gets kind of gross. and I have to remember it, but I'm going to show you basically how that goes. I believe this is it, and yeah, and the knight has to move obviously, but this let's see, maybe a fork here, and then this. And now the knight's going to have to move. So there's some problems here. I don't know whether... It looks to me like black can hold that pawn with e5, and will therefore be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the material's even, and it looks like black I mean, each side is going to have a passed pawn if black plays e5. So this is a pretty interesting position, but we didn't opt for this line. Or at least he didn't, and we decided to go ahead and swap on f6, and now we have an interesting tension here that will definitely come into play. I considered several ideas, and eventually I considered some queen moves here. I considered queen to b3, queen to a4, and none of them were really satisfactory. For instance, if I play queen to b3, supporting the c4 and d5 pawns, then still just taking this, I'm going to have to go ahead and take on c3 anyway. And that's going to, well, you know, it will open up the b file, but I'm susceptible again to these kinds of ideas. And this was maybe not so bad, but it's definitely concerning. Looking at things like queen a4 here, I'm not really sure. Oh, that's protected anyway, so maybe that's not so good. What I decided to do was just go ahead and castle, which I needed to do anyway. And I assumed that if he takes on c3 and is able to go ahead and win the pawn on d5, then at least I will have the b file out of it. So that's what happened. Now here, I want to take advantage of the b file as soon as possible, and as I said, queen to b3 is susceptible to knight a5 kinds of things, and knight a5 also protects b7. I kind of felt that queen a4 was a better move for me. It also double protects c4. If I'm able to capture on d5, then I've got some file attacks across here on the fourth rank. I'm sorry, the fourth rank attacks on the bishop, and I can still do rook b1 things, and the a7 pawn is a little tender. So the a4 square is pretty active for the queen. Now rook d6 is a scary move, because the main idea of rook d6 is to bring that thing over to h6. And if he's able to bring his rook to h6, we have severe problems. And I'll show you one possible variation. Let's say I do something slow, like rook b1. And we have rook h6. And if we do, say, queen b5, the problem... I think I might have calculated this. I'm not sure. If he takes that, I have to go ahead and do this. And this seems okay. You know, maybe I'm going to win this rook. But if I win that rook, then we have checkmate. So I can't really do that. Can I come up here and check him further? And it turns out that at some point I run out of checks. Well, no, that's going to lose the knight to check. You know, I might be able to checkmate him here. I'm not sure. I was not able to calculate to the very end of this over the board. But I don't see how I can continue after even this. And, you know, maybe I just, if I do this, then he just wins the queen. Uh, so maybe there's a, yeah, I really am not sure what to do here. The main idea that I'm trying to get across is, well, let's just do this. Let's make a passing move. And, or we could even do this. Wait, let's go h3 as a sample. If I play h3 here, he just takes it. And now I've got severe problems. Rook h6 is coming, and I'm not sure there's a way to defend that. And I'm just looking at this for the first time. That might be okay. I've still got this, and now he's got a fork here. So there might be some lines in there that we could weasel out of. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, no. Sorry. That would probably be pretty decisive. So, point being, you can see that this is a dangerous idea. So, I calculated that, well, first of all, in my head, I tried rook fd1. And rook fd1 looks like this pawn is pinned now to the rook, so he cannot just do this. He also cannot just slide over here because of rook d5, and now he doesn't have time to take the knight to remove the defender of h2. So the problem with rook fd1, which I thought at the time was going to be a pretty clever move, is d4. In my head, I didn't know what to do about d4. So, something like this, and now he's just over here and I'm dead again. I don't see any real way of defending h2 and h1 and all those things, and bishop takes f3 is coming, etc. So after rook fd1 was discarded, I was looking for something else, and it turns out that c takes d5 gains a lot of time because of the attack on the knight, and if the attack on the knight is ignored, then c takes b7 is check, and suddenly all of white's pieces are leaping into the attack, and black is going to be dead very quickly. So this attack here actually comes quicker than black's attack, and so black does not have time to play rook h6 here. As a sample line, if black plays rook h6, d takes c6, and now we need to remove the defender of h2, it's another move black has to take, and you can see very quickly that, I mean, even pawn takes b7 here, and now black is losing the queen. That's a very simple way. Here, if I can remember correctly, we have this, and black's in trouble. And obviously here, now we're just going to get a spare queen and just chase him all over the board and eventually checkmate him. So black doesn't have time to do that and must recapture, or must respond to the threat. You know, maybe this, which is a little crazy, but maybe it's okay. So black plays rook takes d5, and at this point I found what looks to be a pretty cool move, but the computer doesn't really like it. And that moves bishop a6, which looks kind of crazy, but the idea is if pawn takes here, then queen takes here. And, you know, maybe that's good, but let's really look here. I mean, I have this, but then maybe this is enough to hold. I'm not really sure. I wasn't 100% sure, but this looks at least decent. And material is 5 pawns to 5 pawns, but, you know, my queen is pretty active here. His king is extremely exposed, so I thought this was going to be this would be a good line. There was also this, but I didn't think this led really anywhere. It's already hard to find a good follow-up here. So, I didn't think he could take. And he obviously can't push. And if he does nothing, then I just take the knight because the pawn is now pinned. And it turns out that the computer likes just playing rook d6 here. And that stops pretty much everything. I was considering just going ahead and sacking here just to get the play. Really needed to get the initiative back because of the rook h6 ideas. And again, I'm not real sure if this leads anywhere, but it's something to try. I just really don't know. I don't think I have time for all this. So I think rook d6 probably holds everything in right there. My opponent played a little bit more panicky and played knight d8. And at this point, I decided I can still punt that bishop if I want. And I played rook a b1. Rook a b1 putting even more pressure on b7. And now if he takes this, we have similar ideas. Where's the king going to go? It's going to get at least hairy for him. I think probably this is winning, but I didn't analyze it with the computer or anything. I looked at a couple of places with the computer, but I didn't analyze the whole game. So I thought rook a b1 was probably risky, and at that point I'd put enough pressure on him that he played bishop d7, which is a losing move. And I'll go ahead and show you the way the game went from there, which the computer agreed bishop takes b7 was correct. However, here I missed queen a6, which puts pressure on the knight, which can't really be defended anymore because bishop c6 is restricted by the queen. So the knight is going to fall with check. It's going to be a disaster, and queen a6 was clearly winning. I played a winning move, but less winning, which was queen takes a7. And now I'm threatening the knight again, but black has the opportunity to protect it with bishop c6. However, the line I saw in my head was that even if he does that, I can play queen a8 and snap up the rook. And the g6 pawn is unprotected, so rook d8 isn't a threat. And I'm missing all sorts of things even with that shallow analysis. But over the board, I was pretty comfortable and confident. So I played it. And now I can get out with queen takes g7. But right here, it turns out that this is a pretty sick little thing that I missed. And I hope I'm doing this in the right place. I believe I am. Try variation. Now, queen takes f3. Check this out. I just lose the knight because if I recapture it, that's pretty sick. I lose the game. So that mate is something I probably should have seen. If I were to get my knight taken right here, then I'm in for a game at least. Let's see. He has two pieces for the rook, and I have a pawn. So, material is pretty even here. I might be able to snap up a pawn. He might be able to snap up a pawn. It's going to get hairy. So this was not as clean a win as I thought it was, but my opponent didn't see that, luckily. So he tried to trap the queen. I don't know. Oh, I know what he was doing. He was getting the rook out of the way so he could snap on f3 with the bishop, and he didn't consider the queen taking, which would have won at least a piece, if not the game. And now queen takes g7. He makes his final mistake of the game. Well, the final decisive mistake to completely lose, and that is bishop takes f3, and it seems like a pretty good idea to expose the king along the g-file, but he missed queen takes g3 check, and it's just pretty much over. He played king c8, and now it's just an endgame, and I'll run through quickly what was going on there. I wanted to activate the king over saving the c-pawn, even though it gives him a passed pawn. It probably was, I don't know which way was better, but I thought I could at least get a pair of rooks off there and kind of simplify. Now his knight is a short-range piece, so I can go win the h-pawn pretty easily. His c-pawn was never really a concern. I can always run my king over there and get it. and he has a hard time checking me with the knight, and anytime he does, I can mop up the f-pawn, and here's how that worked. And then king b4 is a mistake because of rook h4 check, which wins the pawn, since the king has nowhere to go to protect it. So here he just resigned because he was, down to one pawn against four and the exchange. And he had really no advantages other than the possibility of maybe me slipping into a fork. So that's how my game ended. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing it, and I was pretty happy with beating a higher rated player. Whoops, sorry about that. Beating a higher rated player, and hopefully I can continue to do things like that. We'll see you next time.